Hey everybody, we're back. Sorry about the tech issues. They happen. We are working on getting our racers back to the starting line. We're going to go ahead and restart this Link's Awakening race for everyone as soon as I get the word that they're ready. Because they were only about 5 or 6 minutes into their race. So I think it is going to take a second here. Yeah, I'm going to let them focus on getting this race restarted.
Hello again, everybody. We're back with Link's Awakening Switch glitchless race. I guess I can introduce the runners again. We got M-Chan, Misty or Meeks, and Libby. All very good runners of this game, and they all have pretty close PBs, around 141 and 142. So hopefully this will be a close race, and they'll get to finish this time.
I'm looking at the stream, and it looks like Livy is not quite to the start screen yet.
Alright, so let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is the Switch remake of Link's Awakening, which was originally released in 1993 for Game Boy. And it was re-released on Game Boy Color and then again on the Switch in 2019. And it's a very cool and cute remake. It's pretty faithful to the original in terms of content. Pretty much everything is the same except with the addition of Dampe, which we're not going to see in this run, thankfully. But there are a lot of mechanical differences in this version from the original. Mainly in some quality of life changes. We have devoted buttons for the sword, shield, Pegasus boots, like lifting and interacting with things. So we have a lot more options to use in all circumstances compared to the original. So we'll get to see a lot of dashing and stuff later in the game. But being a glitchless category, most of our time save in this run comes from really optimizing movement, taking the most efficient paths, not getting caught up in enemies, or dealing with them efficiently, and stuff like that. So, we've already seen that here. They push these urchins like as little as possible and stuff like that. So in the beginning of the game here, this, it's a bit of a slow ramp up into the main action storyline and stuff. We get stranded on the beach, we have to go pick up our stuff, and then we're gonna head into the woods to start uncovering the mysteries of the island. And they're gonna go find a mushroom, get the magic powder, in order to get the key to enter the first dungeon. So this is a part of the run where we're very much going to see what I was saying with just efficient movement and combat and either killing the enemies quickly or just getting around them without getting hit, stuff like that. One thing that we're going to see for a first half or so of the run, I believe all runners are going to do, is they're going to be keeping track of the number of enemies they kill, which is necessary to manipulate a power-up drop later in the run called a piece of power, which will temporarily increase movement speed and damage dealt, which is the relevant part of it. And this drops after a fixed number of kills. It drops after 32 kills plus your maximum number of heart containers. And we need this in Dungeon 5 for the boss to kill it efficiently. So you might see, maybe not right at the beginning, but a little bit later, we'll see them either taking some extra kills or avoiding some enemies, things like that may not seem like they make sense on the surface, but it's going to be factored into that routing. So, all the runners here have gone through this cave to get the mushroom, and we're going to grab the 50 rupees on the way out, which we are going to need in a few minutes to play the trendy game. Which I'll talk about again in a couple minutes. But yeah, basically we have to get the magic powder here by trading in the mushroom, and then we're gonna go back through the woods, use the magic powder, in order to get to the tail key, which is the key for the first dungeon. Yeah, so, you know, all runners are pretty close right now. There's not a ton going on yet, but...
Well, maybe if we got a moment here, I can remind everybody what we're all here for, since we had our bit of downtime there, and we're getting the run back underway. But we are here raising money for the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning youth. You can check them out at www.thetrevorproject.org to access their services, find out more about their impact, or to donate.
Yeah, very good cause. Very, very good and important. I see we reached $10,000. That's pretty nice as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anytime get those nice round numbers, it's always a good feeling. So we do have a couple of incentives still open. We have a bid war for this race. And that is to save or leave Marin. Glenn, do you maybe want to explain what that bid war is to our viewers in case they don't know what that is?
Yeah, for sure. So, in this game, after you beat the 7th dungeon, and then on the way from there to the 8th dungeon, you have to cross this broken bridge. And normally, like if you play through the game normally, you will see Marin, who is the I guess I don't know exactly what to call her, but she's cute and she's a main character in the game. She'll be stranded on the bridge, put there by monsters, and you rescue her, and there's this cutscene of her talking to you, and then the owl comes and talks to you after and stuff like that. And normally we skip this cutscene because it doesn't happen if you don't complete Dungeon 7, so normally we do it in 2 trips so that we can go to Dungeon 8 without seeing this cutscene, because that saves about a minute. But if you donate for it, these runners will instead complete Dungeon 7 all in one go, and we will see this cutscene and rescue her from the bridge instead of leaving her stranded there forever.
That is good. That is a good explanation. I'm all for saving the cuties, so
Yes.
I'll put my lot with that. Also, chat, I do just need to let everybody know we're noticing a bit of stuttering here. We're actually going to go ahead and pause the race. We're going to get our runners' attention here. Have them hold up for just a second, and we're going to restart the RTMP. So we're going to have a quick pause in the race here, but we're going to just try to finish squashing all of these tech issues. So I'll just take a quick second here and get that done. So.
All right, am I counting us down to start again?
I think we're getting the feeds unstuck. Okay, I see one. The M-Chan.
3, 2, 1, go. Okay, hopefully we're back on track now. We are all here in the first dungeon. We missed a little bit due to that. But we've basically done the first half of Dungeon 1, which is just collecting some small keys, and it looks like Chan and Misty are both just about to get the Rock's Feather, which is the main, or the dungeon item from Dungeon 1. This is kind of one of the defining things about this game's movement, in that it lets you jump, which is a relatively unique thing in the Zelda series. And there's going to be quite a few ways that the Rock's Feather gets used in this run to save time, whether it's through small optimizations or enabling larger skips. But, I mean, now that we have the Rock's Feather, all we really need to do is grab another key and then get the Nightmare Key and move towards the boss of the dungeon. And we're going to see here some other little minor movement optimizations here. Basically, now that we have the feather, if there are, enemies in our path and stuff, now we can do jumping slashes instead of standing still and slashing, which allows you to move while slashing. So you save a little bit of time on that. Save about 6 frames every time you do that instead of standing still. So very minor thing, considering it's a 60 FPS game. But so first we have the mini boss dungeon, which is Rolling Bones, and this guy's gonna throw the roller over at you, and the goal here is that we're going to jump over it, and then we're going to just try to slash and keep him in a corner instead of letting him get back to the roller again, which is trickier than it looks. You have to time your slashes accordingly because he does have invincibility frames. So nicely done for both of them. He's entering Moldorm here. Moldorm is legitimately one of the hardest bosses in this game. Very trolly. He kind of moves randomly, and he can push you into these holes in the corners. It doesn't happen very often, but it can definitely happen if you're unlucky. But all we need to do is do a spin twice in the tail. Spins do double damage from normal, at least with the level 1 sword. But in between, we have to wait a certain amount of time. So summoners will use an audio cue in the music based on getting the first hit at pretty much the same time after the fight starts. So it's not necessarily that hard, but he can troll you a lot. You can die if you're at low HP. All sorts of fun stuff like that. Hopefully Livy will get it pretty clean. Looks like the top 2 runners both got it pretty clean. And they're getting the Full Moon Cello, the instrument from the first dungeon. So the goal of the game overall is that we have to get the instruments from all 8 dungeons before we can enter the final boss. And it was mentioned before that we are doing the run in German, which saves time on text, but these white fade outs after the dungeon is actually the biggest reason why German saves time. As you saw, basically that white fade out has some text. It's a hint of where to go next. In German, it only has 1 screen of text. In other languages, it has 2 per dungeon, and those screens are very slow. So I think you lose about 6 seconds per dungeon if you have another language. So that's the bulk of the time save with German, but there are other, minor saves in other parts of text there. So we're seeing these runners here go down to the beach. We're visiting Sail, the crocodile, and we're going to trade the dog food to him, which they got from Chow Chow, which I think we didn't see earlier. But this is part of the overall trading sequence that kind of spans the whole game. And when playing this game casually, you're supposed to do the whole thing. I might talk about that more later if I don't really have time now, but the final item in the trading sequence is the magnifying lens, which you are supposed to be required to get in order to find out what the path you have to take is through the Windfish's Egg at the end of the game. But we are not going to need that due to an RMG manipulation that we've done long before the run started. In fact, all of these runners have probably done it months ago at this point, maybe even years, because you can't do that. But in Glitchless, we do still have to do a little bit of the trading sequence. We can't skip the entire thing, because one step of it, which will be the next step where we trade the bananas to Kiki the monkey, is required to access an area of the island called Candlelit Castle, which we'll be doing after the next dungeon. So we're going back through the woods here. Now we have to go to the Moblin Cave to rescue Bow Wow, who is the lovable dog. He's definitely a dog, don't question it. And this is another tricky boss fight in here. We have to fight the Moblin King. After a couple of rooms of clearing out the Moblins, this room is also deceptively really difficult to knock these time in with the 4 spear Moblins, but that was handled pretty well. So King Moblin here, we have to wait for him to charge, and then... Oh, that was really close. So, Moblin takes 8 hits with the normal sword, but his spin counts for 2, and we're trying to abuse as well here a mechanic where if the enemy is near Link's left hand, where he's holding the sword, when you start the spin, it can cause it to hit twice, so that could do 4 damage. And then we'd have to do 4 slashes, but he doesn't quite have enough time to just mash the sword. You have to time your hits just as he becomes vulnerable again. So this fight's actually really tricky to get the 1 cycle. Looks like they are pretty even coming out of the Moblin Cave, though. Yeah, and following Link now is Bow Wow, who, as I said, is definitely a dog. I mean, that's what every dog I've ever seen looks like. So I don't know about anyone else.
Definitely a dog.
Now you might think that because Bow Wow is a dog, that automatically makes him a good boy, but in fact Bow Wow is not a good boy at all. He's very bad boy. This is just one place of where RNG can cause us to lose time. So in order to get into the second dungeon here, we need Bow Wow to eat these swamp flowers. It's the only way that we have to kill him at this point in the game, which is kind of what forces you to acquire Bow Wow. Misty got good RNG there. Sometimes he just refuses to eat the flowers, and there's nothing you can do. It's really cool. But this game has a lot of minor RNG, just like in enemy patterns and stuff and how to deal with them. This room as well is a very notable example of it. Those Stalfos have like a billion different patterns they can go in, and you can lose a lot of time depending on the pattern, or if you handle one badly, or you know. But I think they both handled it pretty well here. So Dungeon 2 here is Bottle Grotto. It's called that because the rooms are laid out in the shape of a bottle. Very innovative and creative. This dungeon's not super interesting. It's mostly just a straight path. There's some minor movement optimizations they can make here. But there are a couple of difficult parts to it, which coming up very soon, a couple of rooms after where Misty is right now, will be the Hinox fight, which is the sub-boss of the dungeon. And the Hinox is another difficult 1 cycle to get. It's sort of a 1 cycle. So the Hinox has 2 attacks he can do. He can either pick you up and throw you across the room, or he can throw a bomb at you, which he does if you're kind of close enough to him. Like that. And we need to get 8 hits on the Hinox, and we really don't want him to grab you, because if he does, it's really slow, especially when he throws you all the way across the room. You can lose easily like 5 seconds or more to it. He did lunge at Misty there, but she was able to get just out of range for the Hinox to grab Link, which was pretty nice. I hope you all like the boos in this room, because this is the only room in the game that they appear in. Really great use of that enemy. But regarding the power bracelet, so power bracelet lets us pick up pots and rocks. There's another bit of a tricky optimization here. That jump that they both did crossing this crystal switch. So they basically jumped and faced diagonal in the air and did a jump slash and had to hit the switch twice so that they went up and down. Or so the pegs went up and down, and then they could get across really quickly. This from here, this is where we're going to get the Nightmare Key. It looks really weird, the way they're killing the enemies, but this is required. It's a quote-unquote puzzle. It's not really a puzzle, you just have to read the solution somewhere in-game. But you have to kill the enemies in that order in order to spawn the chest. If you kill them in another order, there will be a buzzer sound, and you have to reload the room and do it again. This is from here, making efficient use of pots. Pots do a lot of damage. They're one of the only effective ways to kill the Pool's Voice, which are those rabbits. So luckily they gave us the pots for that in both cases. So we see here they're, you know, jumping off the platform there as soon as they can. Just trying to be efficient in every little corner of this game. You know, every little movement matters in glitchless. They're pretty even now. Looks like Misty's a little ahead, but I mean, this lead can change pretty much anywhere. This game is full of minor RNG. You know, anything can happen. So the race cannot be called until near the end. But it's pretty good to see them still like this close. What is in the dungeon 2? I can talk about this boss as well. There's not really anything to say. He's a very bad boss. It's an auto-scroller into RNG. It's really amazing. Really glad they included this in the game. But we have to do 3 cycles of just waiting for him to throw fireballs at you, and then he goes back in the pot. You throw him at the wall. After you do that 3 times, you'll be out of the pot. You'll spin around in a circle in the room for a random amount of time. Completely outside of your control, and then you have to hit him. And hopefully both phase runners can get a 2 cycle on that phase. So this is the phase you see entering right now. So there's 2 copies of him. The real one is the one that is closest to the walls. You just have to wait until he is about to become real, and then hit him. He has to get hit 8 times, or for 8 damage in the cycle from this phase. There's a few strats that we can do in order to ensure that we get this in 2 cycles. You really don't want to get a 3rd cycle because it loses a lot of time.
Looks like they pretty much got the same pattern there, so that's good.
Yeah.
Kind of leaving the way they came in.
Yeah, we see both of them pick up the heart container here. We're going to be skipping most of the heart containers in this game. Most people who run glitchless will do the run with either 5 or 6 hearts, just depending on how confident they are with some things. 5 is obviously a little bit faster, but it's a little bit riskier because there are places where we have to take damage. So you have to be a little bit more confident in not taking damage in unintended ways, otherwise you'll have to spend time picking up hearts somewhere. They both picked up this one. I think it's more common to skip this one and get the Dungeon 3 one, just because if you end up killing Genie close to the door on the left, then you end up spending a lot of time picking up that heart container compared to just walking out. But it's not a major thing. That is true. You cannot skip the heart containers in the original version of this game. Which is one of 2 Zelda games where you can't do it, the other being Link to the Past. Fun Zelda trivia. Anyway, now that we have taken Bow Wow for a sufficient walk and tied him up outside the entrance of D2, where he was waiting for us to come back. You know how it is. We're returning him to his owner, Madame Meow Meow, and she rewards us with a kiss, which is pretty nice of her. And now we're going to go into the shop here, and we're going to grab 30 bombs, which we're going to use. Bombs are actually not available in the shop until after getting the conch horn from Dungeon 2, which is a change from the original Game Boy game. But there's a mechanic left in, a very intentional mechanic, which is stealing from the shop. And CM-chan got it here. Now he's gotten in the lead a little bit. So how you're supposed to use the shop is you pick up the item and bring it to the guy at the desk and pay for it. And if you try to leave, he'll stop you and say, hey, you have to pay for that, come back. But if you can manipulate him to not be looking at you when you walk out, you can just walk out and take the item. And you get it for free. But he kills you when you go back in. Which we both saw. And the shopkeeper's actually the strongest person on Koholint Island. I don't know why he couldn't just beat the game for us, but he's stuck in the shop. So we stole the shovel and the bow. The shovel is a mandatory item. The bow is not, but it will save a lot of time in a lot of places. And see both M-Chan and Misty here making use of bomb arrows, which is another intended but hidden mechanic in this game. If you equip both the bombs and the arrows and press the buttons at roughly the same time, you will shoot a bomb on an arrow. And that bomb arrow will explode on impact with anything, as opposed to just laying a bomb, which will take 3 seconds for the fuse to go off before it blows up. So we're going to use that a lot throughout the run, just to open up walls and stuff quicker wherever we have to use bombs. But the trade-off for that is that the arrow route over this whole run is very tight. There's, you know, depending on the strats you do, there can be 0 margin for error, or like very little. Arrows are not something that we really get drops of almost anywhere in the game, at least until very late in it. So we get the 20 originally when we get the bow, and that's going to have to last us until we get into Dungeon 6. So every arrow use is very carefully planned out until that point. So hopefully there aren't too many mistakes here, or any. Especially since we're going to be using a bunch in a very interesting part of the game coming up here, which is Candlelit Castle that I mentioned earlier. So this is only in glitchless. We have a pretty easy way to skip this in glitch categories. But in glitchless, we're obviously not allowed to do that, so... Oh no, M-Chan got a very unfortunate thing here. So in Candlelit, we have to collect the 5 golden leaves, which are basically hidden from various enemies around the castle. And the first one is in this crow on the tree here, and we get it by shooting a bomb arrow at the trees, and the explosion is just big enough that it can hit the crow while it's perched up there, and then the leaf will drop, generally speaking, in the middle of that patch of grass on the side. But sometimes, depending exactly where you shoot the bomb arrow from, it can just go somewhere completely different, and you end up just having to reload, or it can get stuck on the tree or something. It doesn't happen that often, but it can happen sometimes, so it's pretty unlucky, unfortunately. But as I said before, there's a lot of chances for M-Chan to catch up here. It's not damning or anything. Both of them are getting a piece of power drop here in Candlelit Castle. This is really good. I mentioned before that this power-up, primarily we wanted for the boss of Dungeon 5, but a lot of runners have started to route it so that we get a drop here in Candlelit Castle, which is really beneficial because it increases our movement speed, and this is a place where we have to walk a lot. In fact, this is one of the last parts of the game before we're going to get the Pegasus boots. And it's also going to help on this ball and chain soldier here that Misty is about to fight. So this guy takes 10 slashes normally, and he's pretty hard to get because he swings this ball around constantly. With the piece of power, it only takes 5 slashes. So that cuts out actually a few seconds of the fight, in addition to making it easier. So very nice kills from both of them there. And the last golden leaf is from the Mad Bomber in the holes here. He runs away when you start to get close to him, but if you shoot an arrow close enough as you approach, or far enough away rather as you're approaching, it'll hit him before he gets to run away, so you can get an extra hit like that and save the cycle. Looks like Misty ran up and hit him with the sword after, so that's that'll save 1 arrow use, as opposed to using 3 arrows on him. Is good. Any arrow we can save is a big deal, like even 1 arrow. So yeah, it's good. So we're gonna enter Richard's house here. Richard has the best house in the game because it has 4 frogs in it, so it's really, really good by default. And Richard is who's supposed to initiate the quest to get the golden leaves. We never talked to him before, so he's gonna be like, hey, you should go get the 5 golden leaves. And then we talk to him again, and he's like, oh, hey, you got the 5 golden leaves. And then he lets you in the cellar. And The reward for the golden leaves is that we get to do his yard work. Because he has a very, very unkempt field here, full of bushes and grass. This is actually a deceptively very tricky part of the run. There's holes under these bushes. Obviously, it's not random or anything, but it can actually be really tricky to get through here as fast as possible with jump slashes without like accidentally overshooting and landing in a hole. So it looks like that was pretty well executed from both of them. And they are off to put the slime key that they just obtained from the pothole field to open up Key Cavern, the third dungeon. And we're seeing Misty here do jumping slashes through this grass, so you move much slower when you walk in grass. Not if you jump through it, but slashing while you're jumping is pretty free. So the actual fastest way to get through this is to kind of do a jump slash and then walk through the empty grass that you cut and then jump slash again. You want to also cut down on the number of times you jump because you do lose 4 frames every time you land from jumping. So, you know, all of that factors into like the very minor optimizations that are just everywhere in this run. I can't even explain them all. But we're entering Dungeon 3 now. Dungeon 3 is one of, if not the most, RNG heavy dungeons in the game. There's a lot of variance you can get here just in terms of enemy patterns and stuff. And this first room is the worst of them. If it goes well, you can hit these 2 bombs and have them collide with the 2 other enemies and clean up the room really quickly. But if you get bad patterns, you can just get stuck by that Stalfos, or, you know, the bomb just goes somewhere completely different. It doesn't hit him, or, you know, a bunch of disasters. But I think they both got through okay here. There's also just a lot of enemies in this dungeon. It's probably the highest enemy density in the entire game, if I'm being wrong. And the gimmick of this dungeon is that there's a lot of keys, and you have to find all the keys to find your way through. We get to skip a bunch by knowing the correct way to go on that first room with the 4 locked doors. But then in order to get to the boss from here, we have to collect another 4 keys, so we're going to get the other 4 keys in the dungeon. But first we have to go get the Pegasus boots, and these are just beyond these Dodongo snakes, which is the sub-boss here. And the Dodongo snakes are kind of annoying. You kill them by feeding them 3 bombs, but after you feed them a bomb, they have to move 4 times before they'll eat another bomb. And the movement is random. So you kind of have to react a bit to where they move and also keep count. But it's also kind of boring because you kind of just have to wait and there's nothing you can really do to speed it up. Some patterns can be a little slower than others if you end up having to finish the fight away from the door or closer to the door. But not a huge deal either way. They both had pretty reasonable fights there. And we're getting the Pegasus boots. Pegasus boots allow us to dash, and this is the other movement, like very movement-defining item in this game. The way dashing works is that while you're charging up the dash for, I think it's about half a second or so, you can move in any direction you want, but you move more slowly, and then whatever direction you're facing when the charge ends, you start dashing that direction, and then you can even strafe side to side in the dash. So there's a lot of, you know, very intricate dashes that we can do all over the place, and some are really difficult to execute. But, you know, they save a little bit of time, so that's something, you know, at a certain level you have to start going for them.
Can I hop in for a second with an announcement?
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we just got a $100 donation in from Echo Parallax, and the comment says, "Thanks again for such a good weekend of speedruns. Let's unlock Final Fantasy X." And that donation actually did unlock Final Fantasy X. So, yeah, I get to run that in a few hours. So that's exciting for me and exciting for everybody watching. I hope that you're all ready for that. And thank you so much. The other part of that donation also went to the bid war for the second game of our Zelda block, which is BS Legend of Zelda. So That one has a bid war. This run also has a bid war, so you can still impact whether we save the cutie or not. So
Yeah, that's exciting. So unfortunately, one of the keys that we have to get is back at the entrance of the dungeon. And we need the boots for it, so we kind of have to backtrack there. But we also take that opportunity to get a 300 rupee chest, which you might have noticed they did a little bit ago. And Livy's going to do it very soon himself. The 300 rupees we need later to get the frog song, much later in the game, and this is the fastest time that we have to get 300 rupees. So this is where we do it. It takes about 35 seconds, I think, which is the fastest 300 rupees we can get. I guess it's a good time to talk about auto-loading, which I didn't talk about at all. So, in this game, there's an autosave feature, which triggers at major events, such as like picking up items or clearing rooms to open a door and stuff like that. And in a dungeon, we can load this autosave, and it brings us back to the beginning of the dungeon. So even though there's actually an in-game item to do that later, which is Bambo's Manbo, it's still faster to use this autosave. So we're going to be doing that a lot in a lot. Some of the other ones later, especially, we've only seen it like a couple times so far, but yeah, they're done Dungeon 3. I kind of talked over the boss. The boss isn't super interesting. You just have to hit him a few times. Nothing too major there. So we see here a little bit of divergence. Chance picking up the 6th heart. Misty skipping it. That should play into some differences later, depending on, you know, damage they take and stuff like that. Some things M-Chan might be able to do a little bit more aggressively with more health, whereas Misty might have to be a little more cautious. Things like that. So, I guess I can talk about the boss now since Livy's doing it. So it's Slime Eye. It's the boss of Dungeon 3. You have to hit his eye a few times, and then we discover the process of mitosis using the Pegasus boots, and then hit each eye 4 times after that. It's very, very difficult and unlikely to get both kills without one of them jumping. It is possible. It's easier if you have a piece of power, but it's not really worth routing a piece of power there for that, especially since it's not even a guarantee. So after Dungeon 3, we're seeing M-Chan and Misty already well in progress here. Going towards Dungeon 4 is going to be a very long segment of Overworld. We're going to have to go on a date with Marin, which is pretty cool. You'll get to see how cute Marin is. But first we have to talk to the Walrus. So the Walrus is sleeping there, and we're going to need Marin to come and help wake him up. And we have to go talk to the Walrus. This is one of the 2 triggers that will get Marin to appear on the beach. In order for her to start following us. The other trigger is to trade the pineapple to the bear chef, which is, you know, way too far out of the way for this category, so... Or trade a honeycomb for a pineapple, rather. So, we just talk to the walrus instead. And then we go into Inception, the dream inside the dream, to get the ocarina, which is a real thing, even though it was in a dream. But I mean, I guess the whole game, you know, is a dream, so... Like, I guess the whole thing is also real. Like, I don't know. I don't understand the logic here, but... Yeah, we get the ocarina, I guess. That room is set up to be kind of a tutorial sorts of how useful dashing is, since you can just dash through all those enemies, but it's extremely difficult to deal with them without the boots, and you can't even get the ocarina without the boots anyway. So you need them to break the weird obstacle. So we've seen them both do a pretty tricky dash south from town down to the beach, where we really see the strafing side to side to navigate the drop downs without bonking into the walls. Pretty tricky. Boots movement is pretty tricky to master in this game. So it's harder than it looks, I promise. And here we have kind of just a longish cutscene. You're going to dig with Marin. She tells us about how she'd like to be a seagull and fly out to sea and stuff, and checks to see if we're listening. This wouldn't be a Link's Awakening marathon run if I didn't point out that the seagulls flying in the background are random. Very relevant fun fact. They were random in the original games too. And make use of this other warp here. So the warps are another big quality of life change compared to the original games. In the original games, there are only 4 warp points around the island, and you can only use those 4 warp points to go between each other. In this game, they added quite a few more. I don't even know off the top of my head how many they added. And in addition to adding more, they also made it so that the song Mambo's Mambo allows you to warp to any of the warp points you've unlocked. So after we go through Dungeon 4, we're going to start to see that being in play for a lot of the overworld movement. More cutscene, Marin singing the walrus. There's a lot of cutscenes in this segment. This is kind of a pretty story-heavy part of the game normally. And there's not really much we can do to get around that. But here we have to fight Lanmola's. Misty's just entering a fight. M-Chan's behind her. Lanmola is a very tricky fight in this game. Ideally, to kill him, we want to shoot him in the head with 4 bomb arrows. He's only vulnerable in the head, which is why we use bomb arrows. They don't do any more damage, but the hitbox is way more forgiving since the explosion is really big, and it can even hit him after he goes back under the sand a little bit. So Misty got a 1 cycle there, which is really nice. Looks like M-Chan got a 2 cycle, an early 2 cycle, which isn't bad. Both pretty clean fights. Getting a 1 cycle is pretty difficult, and if you mess it up, like if you go for it and mess it up, you will end up losing an arrow, which is a big deal. As I mentioned earlier, the arrow route is very tight. Yeah, that was honestly a really clutch save too from Misty. Like that arrow shot was definitely gaming. The arrows are very tight. Bombs are not nearly as tight. You can waste quite a few bombs and not run into any issues. And there's also just a lot more bomb pickups spread throughout the game. Since you are kind of expected to have them by Dungeon 3. In fact, the game even just gives them to you in Dungeon 3. Like in pots in the first room where you need to use pots. So. Let's see, Livy's Lanmola. I missed if there was a cycle before that already, or I think that was probably a 2 cycle. Because otherwise the first cycle would have been no damage. So I think that was a 2 cycle, so reasonable fight there. Lanmola's spawn is also random, so sometimes you can have the key end up in like a worse location. And you have to walk a little bit more to get it. And that can cost a little bit of time. There's just like all this little RNG factors in time. Misty's going for the moat jump here. This is another small optimization. we used to warp to the warp near Dampe's hut, which is near Dungeon 2, and then kind of run around and get here to put the angler key in the keyhole. But it's actually a little bit faster to do this weird jump from just the very edge of the stairs. You have to dash and then strafe and turn in midair by slashing, and you can grab the ladder. It saves like 1 second, and it's not trivially easy or anything. So they both got a first try, which is pretty cool. Livy's still dealing with Baron here. They're both unlocking the warp here from Dungeon 4. Normally we wouldn't do this. This is kind of just a bit of assurance in the likely event that they're going to have to save Baron. The routing ends up working better to have that warp open. Normally we wouldn't do it because we would leave Marin stuck on the bridge forever. Oh yeah, 2 seconds if you do it really quickly. Yeah, we have to go up through the tall mountains here just a little bit in order to jump down to Dungeon 4. Kind of just to introduce the area, and then you kind of remember to go back to it later in the game. And yes, now Misty's in Dungeon 4 here, Angler's Tunnel. We're going to get the flippers here, so this is a water-themed dungeon. And this dungeon's also kind of the most broken dungeon in this game. There's all sorts of skips that we can do in this dungeon, even in glitchless. Which we're going to see pretty shortly. And this is arguably the hardest trick in the run. Coming up, but first we have to get a couple small keys out of these chests. By blowing up these blocks. And then we're going to go back left to where we jumped across that plus-shaped pit. And we're going to do a bomb jump. So the first thing that's going to happen here is she's going to use the Pegasus boots and press L for the boots for 2 frames exactly. And that's going to give Link a skewed angle. And then we're going to dash jump in midair. Or dash jump slash in midair to slow our momentum, get hit by the bomb and knocked all the way down to the bottom. And get across to that side. And that skips having to get 2 keys. And a lot of extra movement throughout the dungeon. It saves about a minute overall. And this is kind of the biggest skip in this category. And I don't even have time to talk about it before we get into Cue Ball, which is another extremely difficult fight. This is one of the hardest fights in the game to do. Cue Ball kind of moves in one way or the other depending on how far away you are from him, basically. And there's a setup that's pretty precise and tricky to basically trap him in that corner. And then at one point, you would have seen they moved away. You'll see it again when Livy gets there. They like move away and shoot an arrow. And that's actually to manipulate the direction he's going to start moving, because otherwise he would move back too far to be able to keep hitting him. So that fight is really difficult. So Dungeon 4 is like, this section of Dungeon 4 is only about 2 minutes, but it's one of the hardest sections of the game, just with this bomb jump and then the cue ball fight back to back. Unfortunately, Livy missed an attempt at the bomb jump. This trick is very difficult, as I said. Oh, a little early there. She's gonna go powder this anti-fairy to get a fairy. So bombs do 2 hearts of damage to you in this game. So you only really get 1 or maybe 2 attempts at this trick. This is a big reason why getting 6 hearts is beneficial. Just to, have a safe bet at another attempt at this trick. And now Amcha and Misty both got Mambo's Mambo, which is one of the songs. It's second one we've gotten now. The first one was before entering Dungeon 4. Which was Ballad of the Windfish, which will be played 2 times. Total of 2 times, which is, you know, it's the same as the frog song, so... Oh no, that's really bad for Libby. Now she is gonna have to do the bump jump again. That's a really bad place to die. Fortunate. But Misty and M-Chan are both just pretty neck and neck right now. They're only a few seconds apart still, which is pretty incredible for this far into the run. We're almost an hour in and they're still like just a few seconds apart. Heading into the Armos maze here, about to fight Armos Knight. Another tricky boss fight. There's a lot of tricky boss fights in this game. So Armos Knight we're going to hopefully kill with 2 spin attacks and 2 arrows. But his invincibility frames are very weird. When he's vulnerable is very not intuitive at all. That was a very good fight. Yeah, M-Chan's going for an extra jump there. Totally reasonable. It can be very wonky to get in 2 arrow shots. Sometimes if your timing is just off, it just bounces right off him. He doesn't take any damage. And from the Armos Knight we get the face key. The face key is needed to enter Dungeon 6, but first we have to do Dungeon 5. The reason we get this now is primarily just because the kill routing works out better to get the piece of power in Dungeon 5. It's not really any faster or slower outside of that to get the face key before or after Dungeon 5. So most of the time we'll do it before, just because the kill route works out more nicely. Yeah, Libby just times the bomb jump, which is pretty impressive to do. Dungeon 5 is Catfish's Maw, and this dungeon is awful. This is the worst dungeon in the game. That's not even my opinion, that's just objective fact. This dungeon is awful. This is another very high enemy density dungeon. Lots of minor RNG in every single room. And then the boss itself is terrible and is major RNG. It's one of the major RNG factors in this run. So the main kind of overall gimmick of this dungeon is that the dungeon item we get is the hookshot, but Master Stalfos has stolen the hookshot. And we have to track him down and fight him a bunch. And he kind of refuses to give us the hookshot, but eventually we manage to blow him up and he hands it over. But we have to fight him a total of 4 times. So the first of which will be where Misty's entering, and M-Chan's working on these Stalfos here. So again, it's another case where I mentioned this, you know, that RNG in that room is brutal. Sometimes you can get extremely bad patterns. But the Master Stalfos fight here, it's the same all 4 times we fight him. We have to knock him over with the sword and blow him up with a bomb. And the timing works out, then you can actually place a bomb right after the last one blows up, and you'll have time to knock him over before it blows up. So that's generally speaking what we're going to be doing here. We get this throwback to Ice Palace in Link to the Past, because that was everyone's favorite part of Link to the Past, was this room you have to go through 3 times and push the block. We really wanted that again, so it's here. Yeah, Libby made it through D4. I guess as we're just going through to track down Master Stalfos a bunch, I can talk about why we split up D4. So you've probably noticed that we haven't finished Dungeon 4. We just got the flippers and we left. Whereas all the other dungeons we've beaten all in one go. And the reason for this is that there's a part of the story after you get the instrument from Dungeon 4 where a ghost starts following you, and you have to take the ghost back to his house and blah 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 blah. You have to do a whole bunch of stuff that's really slow and we don't want to do it. But luckily with the ghost, it only starts following you if you go south enough on the overworld map. And if we complete Dungeon 4 last, we can actually just warp directly to where the Windfish's egg is and go into it. And we'll never get the ghost following us. But if we ever had the ghost following us, he would prevent us from entering any dungeon, including the egg. So we do Dungeon 4. We finished Dungeon 4 last, just so that we don't ever have to deal with the ghost, because it takes literal minutes to do it. It's awful. Livy's on her way into Dungeon 5 now. Misty and Emma-chan are both really close. Misty's very slightly ahead, but you know, only by like maybe 10 seconds. It's still so close, like in the context of this game, just with little variance everywhere. You know, they may as well be tied at this point. This room that Livy is doing is awful. That mini Helmasaur takes 2 hits or 1 dash hit, but you're kind of just reliant on its RNG to be facing the right way. And sometimes he's not. And also the keys just move completely randomly. That room has like 10 seconds of variance purely by RNG. But luckily, a quality of life thing out of this game, which is really great compared to other Zelda games, is that once you do something in a room that causes the shutter door to open, it just permanently stays open. You don't have to do it every single time. So we only have to clear that room once, which is very fortunate. And this is the point where, right now, Misty and Emma-chan are both going towards the Nightmare Key here. So this is the point where they're really trying to basically line up their kill route for the piece of power right now. You know, any sort of extras or not enough kills or whatever, they have to account for that. They have to take extra kills or avoid some enemies and stuff, because they're going to need to get this drop very sorely. So hopefully they both lined it up right. I haven't seen it drop for either of them, so I think they're probably both fine. Oh, it's really unfortunate for Misty. Yeah, sometimes that key just gets in the doorway, and then it ended up dropping the piece of power, so she's gonna have to fight the boss without it. Looks like M-Chan's probably on track. He got a couple extra kills there, which tells me he was a little short, and he's making up for it. So he should be able to get it, assuming he counted right. This is another place where we're going to do a minor skip. We're going to do another skewed angle, this time with the Fox Feather. So you can actually turn Link the full 360 degrees while jumping, as opposed to while moving you can only go the fixed 8 directions. So we can use that to get an off normal angle that allows us to hookshot this block here, and it skips getting 1 small key, which is a pretty nice little save. Hopefully Misty gets good RNG here. So this is Slimiel. This is the worst boss in the game. In the worst dungeon in the game. In order to damage him, you have to grab him with the hookshot as he comes out to bite, and he spawns randomly in one of the 4 holes. And to make matters worse, his tail moving around makes it so that it is virtually guaranteed that one of the 4 spawns is inaccessible, at least. And you have to hit him a total of 16 times, but if you have the piece of power, it's only 8, which is reasonable to get in 1 cycle, which is why it's really important to get the piece of power here. Unfortunately, M-Chan's still missing the 1 cycle, but he should be able to clean it up on the 2nd here. And Misty had quite a few extra cycles, but now they're very synced up. See, all it took was just that little bit of difference, and now they're M-Chan's actually slightly ahead now. But they both got through. No problem. I mean, maybe slight problems, but they're through. That's the important thing. The important thing is that you make it through. Good life lesson.
And I know from when we were talking to the runners beforehand, their bid war is closing soon. I believe it's before Dungeon 7.
Yeah, that'll still be a little ways off, like maybe another 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, I did want to get in a reminder for that while I had a chance, because
Sure.
Save Marin is still in the lead, and I believe Leave Marin saves some frames. That's
Yeah,
the
it saves
trade-off.
about a minute to not save her. So surely you all want them to finish this run a minute faster. I mean, isn't that what it's all about?
It's definitely tempting at this point. So yeah, as Glenn said, you have about 20 minutes or so roughly to get some donations in for that. Save is currently leading $65 to $0. I also wanted to let everybody know that now that Final Fantasy X is unlocked as the bonus game, we added some incentives for that as well. We're going to have naming incentives for Titus, Valfor, Ixion, and Bahamut. So if you want to put in some names for those characters, you will be able to do so. And then the one I'm sure everybody is the most excited about. So the run itself is going to be using the cutscene remover mod. However, there's one very, very famous cutscene. It involves laughing. It involves ha, ha, ha. If we donate $1,000 by the time the runner gets to that cutscene, we will watch that full cutscene, which is about an hour or so into the run, and it's about a 4-minute cutscene.
Livy's making her way to the end of Dungeon 5. Did she get the piece of power? Unfortunately, no. Probably the death and stuff in D4 messed up the routing, unfortunately. But I'm sure it won't be too bad. Slime Eel's gonna be generous, right? He always is. But M-Chan and Misty are in Dungeon 6 now. This is one of the hardest dungeons in the game. This and Dungeon 5 are, in my opinion, the hardest 2 dungeons in the run. This one is very technical. Just every room is just super technical movement. There's not a lot of RNG in this dungeon, which is partly what makes it so technical. Like, everything can be really consistent if you do it exactly right. A lot of dash movement here. There's a lot of kind of long hallways and stuff. So we get this room here. Oh, very nice Misty there. This room here with the 2 whiz robes. The fastest strat is to shoot a bomb arrow at the anti-fairy when it's in between the 2 whiz robes, and it will kill both of them. M-Chan took a bit of a safer strat, one that also saves an arrow, which is nice. Where he just stunned them with dog shot and then made a bomb, which will lose about 3 seconds just from waiting for the bomb, but saves an arrow, and saving an arrow saves time, generally speaking. Now we have the Smasher here. So to fight Smasher, we have to throw the ball back, and Smasher's going to throw the ball at us. Now, if you're fast, you can grab the ball before Smasher does, but I believe it is a 3-frame window to press A or something like that. So it's not something you're going to get all the time. Unfortunately, neither of them got it. Still relatively clean fights. This Wizard room is tricky. M-Chan did it pretty nice. He did something I actually haven't seen before, where he shot the wall on the second shot. So that was pretty nice. Missy looks like got through no problem as well. That room's pretty tricky because there's a delay on using bombs that is a little longer than on shooting an arrow. So if you try to shoot again too quickly, you will get a regular arrow, not a bomb arrow, and you will fail to kill the last Wizard. And after getting that key and loading and taking the warp, we're on here. It is actually very, very slightly faster out of the dungeon like this versus getting the key and then backtracking to fight Smasher. They're very close in time, and But the big difference is when it comes to Smasher. I can talk about this because this is tile work. When it comes to Smasher, so if you manage to grab the ball first on Smasher, the way you do the fight makes you end at the top of the room, whereas if you fail to grab the ball first, you'll end the fight at the bottom of the room. And if you end the fight at the bottom of the room like that, it actually makes it more faster to do the fight first and then backtrack out. So we get the horse heads here. If you remember these from the original game where they were random, they are fortunately not random in this game. They are a bit more of a puzzle this time in that they move like a knight in chess when you throw them. With the black one curving to the right and the left one, or the white one curving to the left, I think. So you just have to figure out where to throw them from to get them on the spots for them. And we get a fun refight of the Dodongos. Except this one is way more awful. With these two holes in the middle, their movement is very weird. It also becomes very difficult to get them fed bombs right at the start of the fight. And it's just kind of generally harder to predict where they're going to go. So you can end up losing a lot of time here pretty easily. Even if you just get like really bad patterns, sometimes you just can't even get a bomb in them at all. And you have to wait longer. Oh, wow, they are absolutely synced here at the Nightmare Key. That's wild. They're so close right now. But wait, where's Misty going? Oops. Probably a bit of a mistake there, but back on track, I guess. Oh, extra arrows. Oh, yeah, okay. That makes sense. I didn't even notice arrow count. So M-Chan entering Facade. Facade is a terrible boss in the original, but they actually managed to make Facade into a very interesting fight in this game. So he's going to spawn on the floor. We have to hit him with bombs, but there's these tiles that fly at us. And in order to speed up the fight, we can actually shoot bomb arrows at the tiles while they're over top of the Facade. First 3 cycles, he'll spawn in the middle of the room, and then he'll spawn a little bit more erratically around the room. It's not purely random. I believe the 4th one, he tries to spawn away from you, and then on the 5th and 6th, he tries to spawn underneath you. But it can be a little unpredictable. If he can't spawn in the spot he wants to, he'll go more randomly. So it's not purely random, but it's a little more erratic. But either way, M-Chan got through it pretty quickly. Misty cleaning it up nicely as well. Livy is making her way through Dungeon 6 as well. In the tile room on her way to fight Smasher. We'll see if she gets the ball first or not. Yeah, I didn't even think about the extra arrows. I didn't, like, I somehow I'm not even sure if I noticed her pick up the extra arrows, so... Oh, okay, she got the piece of power. That's kind of nice, actually, because that, with the piece of power and the extra movement speed, you're virtually guaranteed to get the ball first. Well, I shouldn't have said anything. But there has been some routing in the past, mainly in the glitched categories, to get a piece of power there. Just for the extra convenience. Technically, it's slower just because of the animation of picking it up. And the fact that you can get the ball first anyway, but it's easier. Mchan's working through the sign maze now. Missy is just on her way there. Sign maze is another one of the more technical parts of this run. We have to read these signs in a certain order. They kind of point to the next one we have to read. That's kind of the puzzle here to unlock where the frog is, Mamu. And there's a lot of enemies here. There's just a lot of dashing, hookshotting. It's very technical. It's very difficult as well. The enemies will get in your way if you mess up even slightly. They're only random if you mess up and give them time to be random. So you really want to avoid doing that. Looks like Mchan was pretty nice there. And we have this little optimization too in the sign maze where you can actually read the signs almost from the side. If you read them like straight from the side, it says like, oh, the text is on the other side. You can't read it, but you kind of just have to be like south of it. So even if you're like 90% to the side of it, it still lets you read them. And that lets us optimize the movement a little bit better. Also, the frog song is really amazing, especially considering it's sung by frogs. They're still pretty close here, even with stealing to get the extra arrows. There's of course still a lot of room for this gap to be closed. So you see Mchan warping away here. We may see Misty do that, or she might opt to run out of the cave. Which it was found that running out of the cave is actually slightly faster, but you do have to deal with a potentially bad Moblin RNG blocking you. So it's a bit of a matter of preference for that reason. She's also warping. One of the two uses of the frog song, which is to bring life back to this pile of rooster bones. And the rooster's gonna join us. The rooster's very good. Very, very good boy. Not only in glitchless. In fact, more so in glitched is he a good boy because he is used in a lot of glitching. But here we're just going to use him for the intended use. And also have to avoid bonking into him a couple times. Good old dash movement on all screens right now. Pretty cool. Lots of very fine movement. Livy's about to enter Facade as well. Let's see how her fight goes. And they are on their way to Dungeon 7 here, so as for the incentive, that would be coming up in not too long. Just a few minutes before they'd have to know, I think. So
Yeah, we haven't had any change there. Save is still in the lead. And yeah, you've got maybe 2 minutes left if you want to get a donation in to flip that.
Okay, Livy's Facade fight's going a little wild. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's also the thing with the tiles in Facade, is that if you lay a bomb on the ground and something flies into it, it just knocks it way away. But Missy's going through this cave here. this is the intended use of the rooster to cross that gap. We do a little bit of precise movement and jumping in that cave, which is kind of scary because any hole in that whole cave sends you out of this waterfall here. Which is what they use to escape at the end. But if you mess up at all and fall in the hole, you do get kicked out of the cave entirely, and you'll lose probably about 30 seconds from that, which is really unfortunate. But luckily, you know, they both got through it, no problem. And yeah, they're going to be making their way through some of these caves on Telltale Mountain to get to Dungeon 7. Livy is almost dead, but fear not, because there's a mechanic in this game that I have not talked about, which is the increased heart drop rate. So if you're ever at low hearts, like where it's beeping, the heart drop rate from certain things increases to, I think, 70%. So just by going through that grass there, you get a ton of heart drops. So, you know, you're going to be fine, even if you come out of Facade at really low HP. And M-Chan's just about to enter D7 here, so sounds like we're gonna be saving Marin.
Yep, I'm just gonna give it one more refresh here, just to make sure, and then we'll make it official. Yep, Save Marin has won the bid war, $65.
Go. Well, we'll get to see a cutscene we don't normally get to see. I guess that's nice. Marin's cute, so can get on board with more Marin. Dungeon 7 is another fairly technical dungeon, but it's not super difficult. It's a lot easier than Dungeon 6. It's even, I would say, a lot easier than the overworld section to get here. So it's actually, in my opinion, a bit of a breather late into the run of just something that's not quite as difficult. You know, to kind of help you get your bearings back and stuff. This dungeon casually is notorious, and people kind of hate it because it's incredibly confusing. There's a lot of rooms that serve no purpose and just all sorts of like wild routing that doesn't need to be taken. It's basically a maze. But the main goal is that we have to take this ball here and we have to bring it around the second floor and smash these 4 pillars that are holding up the 3rd and 4th floors. And once we do that, well, I guess it's just the 4th floor. The 4th floor will collapse down to the 3rd, and then we'll be able to access the boss. So even though this is a bit of a nightmare dungeon casually in a speed run, as I said, like, we know exactly where to go. It's nothing too difficult. It's still a little technical, but it's kind of a bit of a breather, at least until we get to the boss. Yeah, and the ball, we can't take the ball down to the 1st floor or anything. We have to leave it up here. So, you know, we've seen a couple of spots where they leave it behind and they'll come around and pick it up again. I'm chance picking up the mirror shield here, which is the item of this dungeon. It doesn't have a lot of use. We do need it to get to dungeon 8, and it has a bit of use for the boss of this dungeon. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, because if it does, that means we're losing time to RNG. But yeah, so M-Chan's making his way through the Grim Creeper fight here. You just have to kill all the battle bats in 1 cycle, otherwise he'll spawn more. Pretty easy boss. You pretty much just stand in place and spam sword. Like, there's nothing really to it. But we needed to get to the Nightmare Key here. we take a bit of a detour from breaking the pillars to go up here, just so that we can take the warp later to get back up to the 3rd floor after knocking down the pillars. Oh, that's unfortunate, Misty's End. She's trying to do a faster strat where you can actually hit them before they start flying. It saves about a second. But it can be a little tricky. Sometimes you miss one. And once you get past the first pattern, it becomes impossible because we don't know what the patterns are, because most of the time we don't have to do them. I mean, at least for me. I don't know what the patterns are. And this last pillar, this is especially the one that trips people up casually. It's really confusing to know how to get here. Yeah. They break the pillars. Now, normally in a run, we would leave the dungeon here, and we would go to dungeon 8, because that would skip the Marin cutscene. But this time, we are going to save Marin, so we're going to end up doing the dungeon all in one go. And to do that, I'm going to fall down this pit and take the warp back up to the 3rd floor, and pretty much just go straight to the Eagle Bite. I see, unfortunately, getting a little trolled by these 3-of-a-kinds here. This is like the only real RNG, at least in the first half of this dungeon, and it can be a pain. They move in all sorts of weird ways. But there is a lot of RNG here in the second half, in the boss. Oh my god, it's Sans Undertale. What does he want with us? Trying to defeat Sans. Anyway, this fight has a lot of RNG. Eagle will fly in random patterns. He has 5 patterns, and he can do them either from the left or the right. So there's a total of 10 different things he can do. The first one is always guaranteed to be a mid-height flyby, but after that it's completely random. And ideally we want to lay into him with a bunch of arrows. 11 arrows kills him. But if we're ever short on arrows, I'm not really sure exactly how the routing works out here, doing this all in one go, because normally we come back here with more arrows after Dungeon 8. So, I don't know, we'll see how Misty handles it. She got extra arrows in Dungeon 6, probably for this fight, so hopefully that means she'll be able to just spam a lot more arrows at him. And the really annoying thing in this fight is when he does this attack, where he shoots the feathers, you can't hit him at all. Luckily we can cancel it by stepping down the ladder for a moment. Wow, that was a really sick strat there. I don't even know how that arrow hit. How was gaming? Livy's now entering Dungeon 7. Keep an eye on her and see how she is doing here. Yeah, in this room that she's just doing now, you're supposed to like drop the ball near the blocks and then pull that handle to move the blocks again and then pick up the ball and go through, but you can just reload the room and walk over. Here's Marin. Look at how cute she is. She's really thankful that you rescued her. And is about to tell you something important, but gets cut off by Terran. And Terran I don't think the relationship between Marin and Terran is clear. At least I have no idea what it is. Because she calls him Terran, so I assume that implies he's not her dad. Maybe he's like her brother that's 20 years older or something, because that happens sometimes. With one bed. At least they have 2 beds in this version. I mean, we've already seen it in Link to the Past where Link and his uncle have 1 bed. But I mean, maybe his uncle doesn't actually live there. It's not really confirmed that he actually lives there. So here's like the one use of the mirror shield to get through this fire. Nice artificial, arbitrary thing placed to make you need an item, as is Zelda tradition. And M-Chan's about to fight Turtle Rock, who is the boss guarding the entrance to Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock's a bit of a tricky fight in some ways. You have to use 3 bombs to blow off the map, so we're going to use bomb arrows for that. And then we have to hit him a bunch of times, and we're going to try to get as many spins as we can. Which we can do by jumping as well if he's up high. We can also get double hit spins. Remember I mentioned it earlier with Pomlin King, depending on where Link is positioned relative to the enemy. Sometimes the spin can hit twice. You can do that when he charges at you. Sometimes. He actually got a really good pattern there. It's random how quickly he charges back at you, and you kind of want him to charge more because you can hit him a lot more than when he's in the air. So that was a pretty good fight. Misty is also looking to have a pretty good fight as well. If you noticed, M-Chan killed the Vire in the first room, and Misty's going to do the same thing. This is a strat on the back of something I mentioned earlier as well, which is that shutter doors will just stay open permanently after you do the thing in the room. So we can actually save a menu by equipping powder after beating Turtle Rock, and then using it to kill this fire, and then just walking through, because we're going to need to go through that door later. And yeah, if we kill him now, we can save a menu later. I like that strat too that she did with throwing the bomb at the wall there. I don't think I've seen that before. Normally I just place it near the wall. So we have to take a little detour around there to get 1 key. With what we call the Roomba. I forget what they're technically called. I think they're called like Rolling Rocks or something. I forget. But there's a couple parts of this dungeon where we have to use those to fill in the floor in order to get a chest or something. And then we use a bomb arrow at that wall to blow up basically an unmarked bomb opening. Well, it's marked from the other side. It's supposed to kind of be a shortcut back out after you find your way into this section. Which you would normally have to do by using more small keys, but since we just know where it is, we can bomb our way in there and save some keys. we grab a few keys here and some extra arrows, since arrows are very important. There's a lot of arrow refills here. And M10's fighting Blano. That was a pretty good fight. Blano's a really annoying boss. The strat we want to do on him is to stun lock him by hitting him a bunch with the sword. But again, like other bosses, it requires kind of a certain rhythm. If you go too slow, he'll manage to get away from you. You actually have to slash pretty fast, but it's not quite just mashing either, so it's tricky. Yeah, and he got away from Misty there, but I think he's at low enough. Yeah, he was low enough that she could kind of just brute force the end there, so that was okay. Very, very difficult boss fight on M-Chan's side there. He barely made it through that Hinox. Really, really lucky. Very difficult fight. And now we're gonna see this Hinox fight here. Hopefully Misty makes it through no problems. It's really difficult. Livy's fighting Eagle as well. Oh, okay. That was really close. Good Hinox fight. After we get the magic rod after Blano, we gotta get this one key that's past the Hinox, which seems slow, but it is the fastest small key that we can get. And then head through some more side-scrolling roads to Cue Ball. This is the second Cue Ball fight. This one's easier than the first one, but still a little easy to mess up. He has a very weird hitbox. Unfortunately, M-Chan shot a little bit too far to the left or right there, but he also has kind of a weird hitbox, where you kind of saw there. If you shoot at his eyes, it just ticks off, like his eyes are made of metal. Sometimes you just get robbed as well. So unfortunate, but the ideal strat is to just get a bunch of arrows. Oh, Misty doing the diagonal shot. That's ooh, that's clean. That's a difficult strat. Very nicely done. Looks like Livy got through Eagle, no problem. She's going to be rescuing Marin very shortly, if you didn't get your fill of Marin. And another Roomba puzzle to get the Nightmare Key. We're going to do another auto load. So this dungeon and Dungeon 5 are the ones where we do a lot of auto loads. Dungeon 6 has a few as well. I think 8 has the most. I forget. So we got some tricky side-scrolling rooms here. I honestly don't know the intended solution of the one M-Chan just did. Misty's on right now. But we kind of just do the shot down just beside the wall that hits both. I don't think that's the intended solution, but it works. And she does a little jump there to avoid climbing the ladder and just falling. It's a little bit faster on a very tall ladder like that. And I have the Hothead fight. Hothead is another one of the RNG heavy bosses. He has random spawns. And after you hit him once in the first phase, you have to hit him another 5 times after he gets like the fire going on him. And it's very difficult to hit him. He doesn't move randomly, he just bounces around the room, but it's still really hard to hit him for some reason. M-Chan got through no problem. Misty's getting a little bit trolled here, unfortunately. Strat there generally is we want to stay on this right platform here, and ideally we'll be able to shoot 3 at him as he jumps out of the lava, but that depends on him jumping out in line with us, which he just likes to not do because he doesn't want to be a bro. yeah, you can lose a lot of time for no reason on Hothead. It just happens. And the only dungeon left to beat is Dungeon 4 here, Angler's Tunnel. Which, if we recall from earlier, we split into two parts because after we beat this dungeon and get the instrument here, if we go too far south on the overworld map, we will get the ghost following us, which will prevent us from winning until we spend several minutes doing his quest. And we don't want to do that. We really don't want to do that. So this dungeon is being completed last. Now we have a tile puzzle here. The solution is in another room, but we actually get to already know it because of the RNG manipulation that we did to learn the egg path. So actually now would be an okay time to talk more about that. So whenever we run this game, we do it with a pre-made file that we make using an RNG manipulation, which is basically just starting the game a certain number of seconds after powering the console on, because that gets used as the seed for the pseudo-random number generation. And then at that point, assuming we do it right, it just walks into that file, the solution to this puzzle here, and the path through the egg. And we can just, do runs on that new file over and over again. And we never have to remake it, as long as we don't save over it by accident. Angler's gonna tell us something here. Blubber blubber, blub blub blub, butter, blub blub blubber, prawn killer. Very, very wise words. That was a very clean fight from M-Chan. Angler is less of a joke in this version compared to the originals. Actually, kind of a hard fight to do optimally. It's easy to just mess up like one slash or spin, and then he, gets away from you, and the pattern is off. But this is one of those fights that's kind of scripted. As long as you get in the hits when you need to, you will always do the same thing. So it looks like they both had pretty clean fights. There's a couple different strats for this fight that are about the same speed. Pretty clean from both of them. Yeah, he dies in like 4 hits in the original. It's so stupid. Now we warp to Dampé's hut and go straight to the egg. So the trigger for the ghost is a little bit south. If you remember when we went to the Moblin Cave near the beginning of the run and jumped past the heart piece, that's around where the trigger is for the ghost. So it's just a little bit south of here. I think Misty's trying to get a heart drop here because we do want to take intentional damage in the fight, and it's a little risky with 3 hearts, but it should be fine. We get to open the egg now. This is a really good song, so I think we should just listen to this song. The music in this game is so well done. It's It's just great. They really did a lot with just the simple chiptune music from the Game Boy. Alright, Olivia's still making her way through D8. But yeah, M-Chan's making his way through Egg here. It's all dark. It's dark until you get the magnifying lens, and it gets lit up. Which is supposed to be kind of a nod that, you know, you're not really knowing what you're doing here yet. But we do know what we're doing here. M-Chan's taking a certain path. I think they're playing on different manips, so they'll have different paths. Doesn't matter that much as long as we know what it is. Misty is playing on what looks like the... Wait. Oh no, that is a little bit different than the optimal pattern, I think, as well. But again, it's not really a big deal. So they're both entering Nightmare Fight like a few seconds apart. This is really close, and either one can still win this race at this point. So this fight has 6 phases. And we're going to see the second one here is Aghanim, making his return from A Link to the Past. And Aghanim attacks by shooting magic balls at you, and we attack him by reflecting them back. And he can do 2 types. He can do an energy ball or a blue ball, which we just saw on M-Chan's screen. And he's already got 2. So we can only reflect the energy balls back. And the first one is guaranteed to be an energy ball. After that, it is a 50-50 chance that every shot he does will be an energy or a blue ball, with the caveat that he cannot do more than 3 of the same attack in a row. So we saw M-Chan got 3 in a row, which means he was then guaranteed to get an energy ball. I think he's at 5 now. This is exceptionally bad RNG. That is 6. He might actually get 9. He is on track to get 9 blue balls, which is the maximum. He's already done Aghanim. I think she got 1, which is the minimum. Oh, okay, he got 6. 6 is really bad. That's a bit of a slap in the face, because at some point, like, you just want it to be 9 because it's so exceptionally rare, but then it's just like, now it's 6, you just lost a lot of time for no reason. So Misty got through Ganon. Ganon is a phase where we're going to try to take intentional damage. Ganon can only be damaged by spinning or dashing, and he spins his trident, which blocks you from attacking. So in order to kill him quickly, we pretty much have to just ram our face into him and dash into him. And now they're both on 1 heart, which is, you know, not too uncommon for this fight, but still really scary. So they're now both on the last phase, Death Eye. And Death Eye has more RNG too. You have to hit him 10 times with arrows, but his eyes only open long enough to get 2 hits, or 3 with a very particular strat, but even that's not very consistent. And it takes a random amount of time for his eye to open, so you can lose a lot of time in this phase as well. And Misty's beaten Nightmare, and so is M-Chan. Very close together, actually. Time is very short on Misty right here, just after the stairs. That's time for Misty. And M-Chan is right behind her. That would be time for him as well.
Wow, that was quite the exciting finish there.
That was really close. I
mean, exciting, but also like bad RNG, but also they both played incredible the whole run,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was so close. And that was a lot of lead going back and forth as well, too. Just, you know, one mistake or one bad RNG moment, or, you know, or just anything can... And because it's glitchless, like, you don't have a lot of time to make up in places, because, you know, it's all just tight movement. So... Came down to Aghanim. Typical.
Well, we're going to go ahead and bring the 2 of them in here and maybe chat a little bit while we're waiting for Libby to finish up.
All right, hello.
Hello.
Hello. GG's.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
GG.
That was
Uh,
a super close race. I don't know if you were paying attention
I didn't pay
or aware
attention until
how close it was.
the angler fight, and then I was like,
Okay.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
yeah. I got a one. My timer says 1:43:39. So I don't know if you were running with the timer as well, but I don't really know how much closer the race would have been had we not had the tech issues. But either way, it was a lot of fun. And Olivia's not done yet, but I do want to thank both. Like, I do want to thank Sword EVTV and Olivia for participating, for accepting my offer when I went to submit this together as a race.
Yeah, I was super excited. This has been great. I've had a ton of fun.
Big Glitchless fan myself. What were your thoughts on the runs, though?
I mostly played well. I'm really happy with how I played. So, yeah, no like major mistakes for myself to point out. So I'm really happy with how I played.
You were what, like a minute off your PB or so with 6 blue balls? Like that's.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Ooh, yeah, Aghanim was not kind to you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the thing that killed me was the that Grim Creeper fight. That one got under my skin, because I'm not, it's newer tech to get the quick kill on that fight, and I'm still not quite there yet. So when I failed it, it's like learning to adapt, to respond to not getting the quick kill is yeah. It kind of hurt my head. I was like, oh no, what do I do now? We'll be taking out our good friend Piranha Killer.
Is that half a heart? I think she needs to grab this heart container.
Yeah, probably. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah, that
heart containers.
Oh, she's foregoing it. Oh no, that's risky.
Yeah, hopefully she farms for some hearts after.
Yeah.
That was because I knew I was neck and neck with M-Chan, and I was like, do I grab the heart or not? And I'm like,
yeah, well, I was debating whether I should get the heart container after Angler Tunneler. Because I peeked at the stream after Anglerfish, and I saw how close we were. I'm like, should I do this or should I just go?
Yeah, it can be tough.
Yeah, because I knew for sure that both Meeks and Olivia were running with 5 hearts, and I was gonna run with when I do attempts I usually run with 6, sometimes 7 depending on how Anglerfish goes.
Yeah, I do 6 as well actually, but
I usually try to stick with 5, but yeah, sometimes that ends up harming me more than helping me.
it can be really tough, like in the late game, because you don't really have a good heal after D8 cue ball, and then like if you take too much damage to Hothead or whatever, it's rough.
Yeah. Oh.
Especially in Angler Tunnel. Then you pretty much have to get the heart container. It's so slow.
Yeah,
it's the slowest heart container because it's in the water.
Yeah, I think it's 12 seconds to get it.
It was actually quite kind of interesting to plan for the saving Marin, because it's already kind of it's not the route that we're all familiar with, and for anyone who speed runs, when you get really familiar with a route, new stuff can like
It's hard to
just
go off.
really mess with you. But also just kind of thinking on like, not because you're going to have the automatic time loss from the cutscene. There's nothing you can do about that. But there's other little things that change, like arrow count on the eagle and that kind of thing, where it's like, oh, is there a way I can mitigate that? So I decided to pick up some extra arrows in D6. I don't know if that saved any time or not, but it was a decision I made.
Exactly synced before you got those arrows.
Oh, really? So it probably did lose me time. That's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. It's not like a category or anything we run, so I don't think anyone's done official timing. But maybe that's something we can get the community to wrap their heads around at some point.
Okay, looks like Livy got a couple hearts, so hopefully she doesn't.
She was good.
Yeah. Because with the Ganon strat, you lose like between 1 and 2 hearts.
Yeah. I lost 2 this time. I almost didn't get Ganon quick kill. I need to practice on that more. But we'll see what kind of RNG Nightmare gives to Livy here. Oof.
Oh no, this is scary.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Can do 1 art Ganon, but yeah,
it's doable.
Yeah, it is possible, but it's so scary.
I usually do 2 hearts.
Oh, she uses a.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but it is worth noting that Olivia runs on the physical release of this game, which is
I didn't realize that.
Which is a little bit slower than the digital release.
Yeah, it is about a minute slower, I think, or 40 something.
Yeah, between 40 to a minute.
No one has bothered to time it because I don't think anybody cares about the exact numbers.
Wow, so she got the best Aghanim RNG.
Yeah, 1 blue ball. It's good. Good Moldorm fight. Stun locking him. See it. Oh. Okay, that's good.
She did it. Heck yeah. Let's go.
Yes, she has to survive the rest of the fight, which shouldn't be hard from this point on.
Oh no!
Oh.
I was just gonna say the Lentmola phase can be really scary.
Ooh.
Just one slight mistake and it's over.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Looks like she's gonna try to finish it out.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what her egg pattern is. Up. I feel like all of us have like a different pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're different from what I use as well.
I find it interesting that Olivia's using a charged jump slash on the Aghanim phase, which I don't think I've actually ever seen that before. I kind of want to give it a shot. Why you can even do it backwards?
Yeah.
But so the Aghanim RNG is actually wasn't it you actually, Glenn, who did the math on it originally?
I did some. I don't.
Yeah.
It's It's actually more likely to get fewer blue balls than I think more. I think.
My run didn't prove that.
Yeah.
So,
the minimum is the most common.
Yeah.
A blessing when you come from
So it's
to the past. But
so when you get bad luck, it's actually good luck. But there's also whenever you get 3 of either a blue or a red ball in a row, you can guarantee that the next one is
different.
The different one. So if you get 3 blue balls in a row, you know the next one's a red. Ooh.
Okay. Just have to beat Death Eye.
Just gotta be old Death Eye. Which, if you were like me, as when I first played this game, I thought it was Death Ol, like an L.
Death Ol. It is. I swear it is. Or it's Deathy.
Death-E. I think I've heard that one too. So you can get 3 arrows at once on this, but I've never been able to do it.
It's very hard. I've only gotten it very few times. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Hey, she got it!
There you go.
Time coming up soon for Libby. That's time. I looked away. It was my fault.
But yeah, I know we're like way behind schedule due to the tech issues. But yeah, once again, thank you to the PUWP with Pride staff for giving us the opportunity to have this game being showcased again, but this time as a race. I ran this 2 years ago with like a 148. I'm really happy that I was able to improve upon that, of course. And also, good race to Misty and Olivia as well.
Yeah.
For sure. And do all 3 of you want to tell everybody watching where they can find you streaming not during marathons?
Twitch.tv/mchanty38. I speedrun 2D Zelda games, which includes this one, as well as the new Super Mario Bros. Series.
And my Twitch channel is Sordy VTV. A little bit different from my screen name there. And I stream some of Link's Awakening speedrunning along with some other variety games as they come out.
Thanks a lot to my opponents. It was really difficult because of the bomb jump, but it's really nice opportunity to get some races for an association. And actually, you can find me on I have already written on the stream. But I really have going to bed very soon because I have to wake up in 2 hours for going to job.
Jesus.
Oh, no.
Well, thank you so much, all 3 of you, for doing this race for us. Glenn, thank you for the fantastic commentary as well. This was really good, and I'm sorry we had those tech issues. It does happen in marathons sometimes, but once the race got underway and we got to see what you all could do, it was very, very entertaining. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone.
All
Take
right.
care.
And that was M-Chan 338, Misty, and Levi La Douceur with Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Up next, we are going to have The Legend of Zelda. Other games. Von running BS Legend of Zelda 100% for you, so stick around for that. And we're going to have a new host for that run. So I'm going to be going and signing off, and I will be back in just a little while to bring you all Final Fantasy X. So please do stick around for that as well. We have some incentives for BS Legend of Zelda. The Sprite Bid War will be closing soon, I have to believe. And then you can also throw in some more money for the Trevor Project. It is an amazing cause. And name some characters for Final Fantasy X, or get to see some interesting cutscenes. So that'll do it for me. On the hosting desk, I am Moonblaze Wolf. I will see you all again real soon.